Are you a fan of horror movies?
Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead.
What about cult classics?
Your move, creep.
If you are, you'll love Shocking Things. Please search for us on all the major podcasting platforms. To see our social media and a direct link to our podcast, please go to anchor.fm/shockingthings.
All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. This is a PWZ podcast, and please welcome to the show, The Cure, Lucas Chase. How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I am awesome. I'm finally glad to have you here. Get to witness you live, probably in a couple weeks, live on Fight TV, coming soon, I guess, right? You're going to be on Rumble in Paradise. We'll get into that. There's a lot of other stuff to get into that I want to ask you. But first, I want to start, how did you get interested in professional wrestling?
Well, I'm gonna bore you with a very cliche answer. I mean, literally, there is pictures and there is stories from my family of me at like 2 to 3 years old on my great grandmother's lap. She was so into wrestling, like she would watch like Wahoo McDaniel and like Chief J Strongbow, and she would always have me on her lap. And like that, my parents always said that was like my first taste of pro wrestling. And I probably subconsciously somewhere in there, it stuck, because when I was a kid, I saw it one time and it was just off to the races, man. And I wasn't like your prototypical, because I grew up in New York, and I wasn't your prototypical like just WWF kid. I was all about WCW, all about WCW.
It's funny you said that. Growing up in Connecticut, being a Northeastern guy, WWF is pretty much, or WWE, excuse me, is king and was king up in this area. But it's that first experience of watching the National Wrestling Alliance that I became obsessed with this as like, oh my God, this is so much better. And it was presented in a different ways, presented with a whole bunch of like more realism and more excitement, and whereas WWF was a little cartoony, what the NWA was presented more like it was actual sport and competition and stuff like that.
Absolutely. It felt like it had that dichotomy and that dynamic of like that realism, and this was like a sport. Like growing up, and don't get me wrong, I was a fan of the WWF. Like I was a big Hulkamaniac growing up, and I really loved Macho Man, and my first taste of Steamboat actually was when he was with the World Wrestling Federation, and then seeing him back in WCW. But there was something about the National Wrestling Alliance and WCW that just drew me in. And then when the Monday Night Wars happened, and you got Hulkamania, essentially the biggest babyface of all time, like someone who was pro wrestling, and essentially the first like casual fan taste was Hulk Hogan, right? Like he was the predecessor to crossover genre, and for him to just don the black and white and just abandon everything that was pretty much my childhood, I was like, I need to watch Nitro every week.
People went nuts when that happened. It was just, I couldn't believe it, because he was the baby face, the hero for a good decade and a half or what have you, when that happened. So tell me, fast forward a number of years, what brought you yourself into the world of professional wrestling?
I legitimately didn't want to do anything else. I was always like an athlete in school and everything. And when I moved to Connecticut from New York, because I'm really from the Bronx, I thought that I was going to be going to one high school that had a wrestling team. And I ended up going to a different high school because I was in that district that didn't have a wrestling team. And I was like, damn, I really want to get into amateur wrestling because that would kind of be my gateway to everything. But that was a no-go. So I played football and I played baseball and stuff like that. But pro wrestling was always on the brain. And right when I was in high school, it was right on the cusp of the internet's like kind of explosion with social media. So it was like the beginning of MySpace, and you had like all those like board chat rooms. I don't know if you remember like the Burning Hammer.
I remember there's a few, and it's funny because I think I don't remember who it was on that I had last where I was talking about this. It was Burning Hammer. Kayfabe Commentaries was one that we had that was like my favorite site, and the tape trading board on there was just, and Death Valley Driver board, which was another one that was like, oh my god, that one was just so awesome. And the tape trading boards I used on like each one as well. So
the tape trading boards were huge, and then like those were like the dirt sheets before the dirt sheets, right? Because now everyone had, everyone's got an Instagram page that's a news source, right? But back then it was like the cool like exclusive club, like, oh, I know this website you can go to for wrestling insider information,
Right.
I'm dating myself as a performer, but so through there I found Tukey Tucker, the wrestling trucker, and he had a school in Bridgeport at the time. So this is like 2007, 2008. And I went there for a little while, very short stay, cup of coffee there to train. And I was one of those guys that was like, oh, well, I trained so I could start working now. Back then in my brain, I wasn't like, I need to continue to train. I was like, oh, I trained for X amount of time, so I'm just going to start working. And I was the complete shits. And I worked matches with people I had no business being in the ring with. I was horrible. And I went to Joseph von Schmidt at the time in this area, had a facility. I went there for a cup of coffee. I never really had like roots anywhere. So I was kind of like training here, training there, training here, and primarily just working really like mud show indie promotions and getting nowhere. I wonder why, right? I wasn't honing my craft. But I was young and I was dumb, and I had a bit of a head on me. Fast forward, I took a huge break from wrestling, and a lot of like personal issues. I'm alcoholic in recovery. I've been sober now for almost 2.5 years straight.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. That's actually the precipice of like the cure gimmick too. We'll get into that. And so when I stopped drinking and stopped doing all that stuff, I told myself, I just had my son at the time. I was 27. And I said, I'm going to get back into wrestling. And I was like, it crossed my mind every day. I was like, it's now or never. I need to shoot my shot. And now it's more accessible. And I started going to, I got in touch with Vinny Viscarello, who used to run Extremely Talented Wrestling. And now he's coming back with Tough and Talented Wrestling, which I have on August 28th as well. Wrestling Dan the Man in Torrington. And so he contacted me. The Cure gimmick was born, and that segued to Blood, Sweat, Tears Wrestling. And I was approached by a friend of mine, Omar Jimenez, who was starting this promotion in Bridgeport and wanted my help as the area kind of pro, to help out with the promotion. And that's where I met Dustin Waller. And Dustin Waller and I credit him, I credit Kylon King, and I credit The Haven, and I also credit, in a very, very big part of this was Big Jim Anderson, my boy, my brother. They opened up the doors for me to PAPW. And to kind of backtrack, when I said I trained, and then, I just kind of was like, oh, I'm a professional now, right? That when those doors opened up at PAPW is where I realized I need to continuously hone my craft in order to get better. And it's not just now, like when you get a job and you're in a field and you work and it is what it is, you're punching the clock. You need to continuously work towards it. So PAPW is now my home, and that's what got me to where I am right now. That whole kind of journey and that precipice over the past couple of years.
We're going to get into some of the stuff you just mentioned, but I want to ask you, you mentioned, training for a little bit with Tukey Tucker. I believe he was a Paul Roma student from back in the day, wasn't he?
From back in the day, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
It's around the time of like Connecticut Championship Wrestling and like, CTW.
Did you attend the CCW shows?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember they would run in West Haven at the, the Masonic Temple, maybe something like that. It was like a really small venue,
Columbus or something
to that effect. Yeah, like right in the center of town of West Haven. When I lived in West Haven, I used to go to those shows. They used to do some of their TV tapings there, and it's the first time. I wouldn't say the first time I met Big Daddy, but it was pretty early on. You know what I mean? So, But yeah, those were some fun shows. And then I kind of got out of wrestling for like 3 or 4 years myself before coming back into it about 3 or 4 years ago and just falling in love with it all over again with Connecticut. It was a chance running into Paul Roma that actually got me going to shows again.
There you go. That's all it takes. Conversation.
Yeah, and then I came down to Paradise Alley show. I told the story on the podcast a million times that I came down to a Paradise show and just haven't missed really many in the next 3 or 4 years. So, what are some of the promotions that you worked there early on now that we're talking about earlier, like some of that Connecticut indie stuff?
So it was Connecticut indie stuff, and it was also I did Rhode Island Championship Wrestling. I did one Battle Royal, which is actually where I kind of sowed my seeds with knowing like guys like Bobby Ocean and stuff like that with CTWE. Did something with PWA one time. And then I primarily worked with, I don't know if you remember this company, but it was Extreme Connecticut Wrestling. And it was based on Bridgeport. They had a very short stint for like 2-3 years. And that's where I met Joseph Von Schmidt. That's where I worked like with Andy Sweet. And I started to get to know those guys and kind of, get my networking in there. And that's where I met PJ Polacco, Just Incredible, and stuff like that. Because he worked there with Joseph Von Schmidt. They had a little thing going on. And that was pretty much it. XCW was like pretty much my home there for my short pro stint in the beginning of my fetal career.
Great. So tell me about the actual formation of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. You said you had a friend that decided to start promoting in the area, and then you're a big part of that, right? Oh,
huge. Now I'm pretty much heading the entire thing. Omar Jimenez, who's a very, very great friend of mine, Bridgeport police officer, huge professional wrestling fan, wanted to, pick my brain and get involved with putting on some shows in this area because there's no one in Fairfield County anymore. It's like New Haven County, Hartford County, Litchfield County, and like everything south of East Haven or Milford there's no one runs, And so he wanted to do this Blood, Sweat, Tears. And, we had the inaugural show, Bladder Brack Rock, 2018, 2019. I think it might have been 2019.
I think it was, I'm going to say 2019 because I think it was would you run 3 or 4 shows before, I guess, the pandemic shut everything down, right?
Yeah. It was 2019. And then COVID happened, and then we did the Tournament of Titans last year. We did Park City Showdown. We did Electric Boogaloo, which is my favorite name of a show ever.
From Breakin' 2?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Yeah. No one under the age of 30 got that reference.
No. Dude, all those 80s, dude, all those movies from that back in the day, there was either like breakdancing. It's you go back and watch some of these movies, it'd just be like a random dance scene in the middle of like a movie. It's just like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, that's how they settled their dances, man. It was great.
Right? Yeah, it was like a dance battle. I actually watched that. I actually watched that a couple years ago. What's that?
I said I gotta take credit for the Electric Boogaloo name. That was all me. I was like, we gotta name the second show after the pandemic Electric Boogaloo. It has to be.
That's awesome, dude. That's hilarious.
BST presents Derailed. Steve Garcia versus Zachariah Gibbs. The Bike Club defend their BST Wrestling Tag Team Championships against The Haven, Ichiban versus Kylon King. We have a 4-corner tag team elimination match featuring War and Peace, Perfectly Sexy, The Firm, and Buff Inc. We have El Presagio versus Jarrett Diaz versus Matt Awesome. Big Juicy defends her Monarchs Championship versus Jesse Nolan. Dustin Flash Waller will defend his BST Heavyweight Championship versus Big Jim Anderson.
So you guys also just revealed a new championship belt, correct?
Yes.
And I think that thing is beautiful. I'm not really familiar with the. No, I have seen the other one. I'm sorry, excuse me. But I got to tell you, like when you guys revealed the pictures on the Instagram, that is incredible. Now, did you take like the influence from maybe the IWGP title? Is that
So
possible?
this belt, I got to hold that thing when we got it in, and it is, first of all, it's a mammoth belt. Like, you know how like they call the NWA the 10 pounds of gold? We're gonna have to call this thing like the 25 pounds of gold. That center plate is heavy. I do not want to be the guy that has to carry that in his bag because it is heavy. So,
Wow.
with that being said, we took influence from myself. And we also have 3 other partners. So Omar Jimenez is a partner. Kevin Sanabria, who runs all of our production work, everything that you see video editing wise, video quality, that's all Kevin Sanabria production. And then we have Harry Davila, who is our head commentator, play-by-play guy on the show. He actually helps with booking, set design, things like that. I just kind of gave a little bit of a insider thing because we are looking into a facility at this moment in time. So
Nice.
for a permanent base, if you're familiar with XWA, Blood, Sweat, Tears in 2022 is going to look to run weekly television tapings to build to the bigger shows as a thing. So you got a little scoop there because I just diarrhea a little bit.
I love the sound of that, especially in Connecticut, and keep me posted on that information that you just said because
I definitely will.
That's I'm excited now.
Like it's trust me, we're in the pre-planning stages of it now, and it is it's gonna be something that I can confidently say no one in independent wrestling will have seen production quality of this caliber around here. That we are trying to set ourselves apart, and it starts with the belt, right? So we definitely took influence from the IWGP. We took influence from the 2002 to 2008 WWE Undisputed Championship. The black belt, the one that was last held by JBL right before the Spinner debut. And we also took influence from the old school Intercontinental Championship.
The '80s model, the Steve-O Savage belt, that one, the night, yeah. So yeah, that's awesome to hear. You just let out a whole bunch of great news for the Connecticut wrestling scene because we have a great area here. There's so much great talent in the state of Connecticut, and a lot of great shows.
Absolutely.
Tell me about your feud. Tell me about your feud with somebody you mentioned a couple minutes ago, Dustin Flash Waller. And you guys wrestled a 60-man Iron Man match on a Facebook Live. You did one of your shows, and that was pretty incredible, the fact that you guys went 60 minutes, dude. Like, tell me about this and leading up to it. Tell me about this.
So that was something that organically happened. So I just want to preface by saying, like, I'm the inaugural BST champion. That championship was we made the decision to have it be that Lucas Chase was going to, and I'm going to break kayfabe in this interview, but I just want to give you like the real deal, right? So if anybody who knows me that's watching this, like, I hate breaking kayfabe so much, but I just want to give the scoop, right? So we made the decision to go with the fact that, one, I lived like 3 minutes from the venue that we were at, and I live in the town that we were running, right? So you're the hometown guy. You want to send the crowd home happy. It is what it is. It's a brand new promotion. Why not start with a bang? So I got the title, right? And the last two in that battle royal was myself and Flash. And Dustin Waller is so young and so talented. It's scary to know what he's most likely going to accomplish in this business, right? He hasn't even scratched the surface of his potential. And when I credit him and Kylon and the Haven and Jim for where I am now, it's because I saw that, like, if I don't step up and keep up with these guys, I'm going to get lost in the shuffle because they're too good to not be noticed. So like iron sharpens iron, boom, right? And me and Dustin, the pandemic hit, and Dustin and I wanted so bad to do this rematch one-on-one. We were originally going to do 2 out of 3 falls. Pandemic happened. BST, due to financial reasons, didn't do the second follow-up show right away. So pandemic happens, boom, boom. Everything's about time, right? And in this business, like you want to strike when the iron's hot, and it's all about timing. I had a conversation with Dustin, and I said, you know, we're coming back with BST. We're gonna do these 2 shows. We're gonna do one big leading up to this big show. I said we want to do the 2 inaugural shows back from COVID to lead up to me and you for the strap, right? We want to tell this story about time. We've all been inside for X amount of time. We've been waiting to have this rematch for X amount of time. We spent so much time in the battle royal, and it was just big thing. A light bulb went off, and I said, we're going to do 2 out of 3 falls. I said, everything's about time. Why don't we do an Iron Man match? Because that is the end all be all. No matter what the payoff is, no matter what the end result of that show is, in your experience as an independent wrestling fan, as a wrestling fan, when is the last time that you can say that you saw an independent promotion have a 60-minute main event Iron Man match?
I was just going to bring that up, actually. I was going to say, when the hell was the last time that happened? And off the top of my head right now, in wrestling, they're not nearly as commonplace as they would have been in, say, the 80s or 90s. You know, you follow me?
Yeah.
So, on independent scene, honestly, I can't really even think much. I mean, I'm trying to think. The last one I saw on television was probably Kurt and Brock, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been one since. The fact that WWE had the balls to put that on television as well, that's another thing. So, which I thought was weird. But anyways, we're not talking about that really. But
you know,
I just think it's incredible. I love the fact that because it's not a common thing these days, especially in the independent scene.
Yeah, no, it was huge. And, you know, we wanted to do something that was going to get people's attention. We wanted to do something that was going to be not the norm. And, you know, that's kind of like what Blood, Sweat, Tears is. It's not the norm. You know, we're not afraid at Blood, Sweat, and Tears to kind of put our content out there as bigger than just another independent promotion. And that's not anything against any independent promotion, because I work for a lot of them and I love every single promotion that's out here. I have a dear spot in my heart for every single one of the boys, the crew, the promoters, the bookers, everybody, because it's hard work. It's a lot of work to do one-off show, let alone consistently, like how Test of Strength is doing. And I love those guys up there at TOS. And, you know, they consistently put on quality shows. But what we wanted to do, we was like, we want the quality to be there, but we also want it to be pomp and circumstance. We want it to be the big deal. We wanted it to have and I remember talking with Dustin, and I remember talking with Kevin Santabria, our head of production, and we were filming the lead up vignettes, the promos, right? And I told him, I said, we need to ensure above all else that when people see this 60-second snippet, they say this has a big fight feel.
Right.
Because that's going to draw eyes, right? That's going to be like, well, what are these guys doing that's different than the other guys? Because it feels different. And so, like, the feud with Dustin was just built around that. And it was built around our personal feelings of being tired of being kind of overlooked. You know, we both have been in the business for a different amount of time. Me a little bit more lengthy, but he's been in it more consistently than I have, right? Because I took that long break due to my personal issues. And quite honestly, we both have gotten kind of like the short end of the stick in different ways, and our careers have run parallel in that sense. And we took all of that and we put it into the story that we were telling about not waiting for our time and making our time now. And you can ask me 20 years from now, and given where I just was, what I just recently did with a particular company, and I made a debut and everything. But no matter what happens moving forward in my career, I will always look back at that 60-minute Ironman match with Dustin, and it will always be top 5. It will always be top 5, because that was like the moment where my eyes opened and I said, we fucking did something here. Like, this wasn't just a match. Like, we did something here. And that brought me and Dustin together, man. I love that kid. That's my little brother, dude. Like,
He's a great dude, and that kid's
great.
got a bright future in the sport.
Oh,
He really does.
God.
That kid's yeah.
But I do owe him another one-on-one though. So
Well, I'll be looking forward to that. Before we move on, though, to the next topic, you do have BST does have 2 more shows coming up. The return, so to speak, was it August 21st, and give me the other, September 11th, correct?
September 11th, yes. September 11th. So September 11th is Road to Success, which is going to be the follow-up show to our August 21st show, which is next Saturday from the Myanmar Yacht Club in Bridgeport. Special start time because we understand people want to get home and watch SummerSlam. We have a special start time of 3 p.m. So it's going to be a nice matinee show, a la the AWA or Memphis territories, the old matinee shows.
I love that stuff. Yeah.
So we're going to do a 3 p.m. start, and the card is incredible. The BST booking committee, as we like to call ourselves, we put together, I think, a card that is going to be one that people talk about. We have at the top of the card, the main event, we got Dustin Waller defending the BST championship against Big Jim Anderson. We've got Big Juicy in a non-title match against the debuting Jesse Nolan. We have the Haven taking on the Bike Club in a no disqualification match for the BST Tag Team Championship. We have Jarrett Diaz versus Matt Awesome versus El Preciado in a triple threat showcase match. We have Ichiban taking on Kylon King. We've got Jordan Rowe taking on Lou Jacobs. And we also have, if I'm not forgetting any, we have a great, so we pride ourselves on our tag team division, and we have 4 new debuts happening at this show. We have War and Peace debuting, and we have Buff Inc. debuting. We have Perfectly Sexy debuting, and we also have The Firm debuting in a 4 corners elimination match. The winner of that match will be the #1 contender to either the Bike Club or the Haven, depending on who comes out victorious on the 21st. And, something that I want to put forward is that just in that tag match alone, you're seeing the 90% of the Northeast covered in that one match. We have Perfectly Sexy from New York. We have Buff Inc. from Rhode Island. We have Massachusetts War and Peace. And we have Connecticut's The Firm, all in one match. And that's something that BST is trying to pride itself in, is the fact that we're not just local, we're regional. Because, baby, this is a Northeast territory, and you're not going to change our mind. This is a territory, and we're going to run it like that.
I love hearing that. I really do. I'm unfortunately will not be in attendance. Unfortunately, it's my wedding anniversary, and I apologize. I'm not watching any wrestling that day. So if it's, I promised, so if it's streaming, I'll definitely be. If it's streaming, I'll definitely be watching it later. So,
we'll definitely be streaming it, so you can catch it on Facebook. We'll watch afterwards. Let the wife go to sleep. Yeah. Trust me, I get it. So.
But I plan on being on the September show, because that's the first, I was like, I'm definitely going, because like I said, I've gone back and watched it. When you guys were debuting, where'd you guys play? The what's the name of that? The Acoustic, right? In Bridgeport?
Yeah, the Acoustic. Was that it? COVID, yeah, the Acoustic.
That was there's an older music venue and such. And I remember, I know Sign Guy, right?
Yes, Sign Guy.
Him and his kid, and he kept talking about it and telling me there's a show coming up. It's close to his house, yada yada. So he wants. But then after that, and I was just like, damn, I'm really sad that I missed it. And then everything shut down. So I didn't get to see it until afterwards, you know? So I am looking forward to BST coming back, and I definitely will be at the September show. So
Good, 'cause
I'm
the
really
September
looking forward
show-
to that.
The September show is gonna blow the doors off, man. We're gearing up for a hot September 11th show, and we're gonna be announcing it within the next few hours, and by hours I mean tomorrow morning. But for the
All right.
September 11th show, all first responders will be able to get 50% off door admission and pre-sale tickets.
That's awesome.
Because we definitely support our first responders. We support our military and veterans. You know, I come from a military family. My father served, my brother served, and you know, we're doing a September 11th show to kind of show, you know, the appreciation. It's a big anniversary. It's 20 years since September 11th this year. So we really wanted to do something on a big scale. And I cannot confirm nor deny, but there may be 10 plus matches on that card for September 11th. So. It's gonna be a big one.
I'm looking forward to that.
You're gonna get your money's worth.
So you've made the big trip down to the Rhodes Academy not so long ago. I followed your story on Instagram. You driving down there, and on your tour of the United States, going on your way down there. I know you took some pictures outside of some famous wrestling buildings.
Yes, I
and
did. Yeah.
and I was quite jealous in a way, and at the same time, being the huge historian that I am, and I just thought it was awesome every time you posted a picture outside of one of these buildings. I was like, damn, like that's so cool. Did you do that on purpose before we get into the next question? Like Scott, like you were driving down there, like, hey, this building's here, and
So yeah, those were purposeful stops. That was like that was not like, oh, coincidence. Like, no, that was like, I know for a fact the Norfolk scope is like 3 miles out, so we're stopping.
I was just there. I was just near there this past weekend.
Yeah.
So, because once I saw the sign, the street signs, I was like, I should really take a ride over there. But family duties, you know, family duties. And
It's probably my most favorite venue.
really,
As far as history goes, the Norfolk scope had everything. I mean, people don't even know this, but I'm sure people do know it. But like the link,
yeah.
you know, that like the building in which DX rode the tank to on that episode was the Norfolk
Right.
scope. You know, like they rode to WCW, who was running the building that night at the scope. You know, like that little entryway where the double doors were that they never opened, and they should have, because they would have been on Nitro and it would have popped the rating. You know, that you could drive up to that gate. It's right in the front of the building. You know, that's like history. And like, I mean, like Wrestle War 91 and, you know, all the clashes of the champions that were in that building.
Yeah.
You know, it's so rich in history. And, you know, going down to Texas, man, I was more pumped. Let me not say that. I was super pumped just to be in like Von Erich territory. Like,
You
to
know,
me, I'm like, dude, I'm in Texas. I'm like, this is like WCCW, world class, dude. This is like Freebirds. This is Von Erichs, you know. This is Rock and Roll Express, you know. Like, this is like all these guys, all these iconic people and wrestlers and legends came from Texas and went through the Texas territory and then worked their way up to like Memphis and NWA and things of that nature. And it's just like, just to be there. I wish my one regret is that I did it in 2021 and the Sportatorium wasn't around anymore.
well, I was about to say, like, I wish at some point in my life prior to its destruction that's the one building that I wanted to visit.
Yeah.
You know, With the history of the National Wrestling Alliance in that building and World Class being a part of the National Wrestling Alliance, then breaking off, and USWA ran there and Global, and then the NWA returned there. I think Crockett returned. What was it, like 95? He ran out of there for a short while.
For a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. They ended up on TV for a little while during that time period. Didn't last very long, but I thought those shows were terribly underrated. I'll be honest with you.
I would have gone out.
So, I mean, that's the one place that I always was obsessed with visiting. World Class was my favorite growing up because I came home from school. It was on an hour after I got home from school, and I sat in front of the couch and watched World Class on ESPN every single day of the week. So, and that's one of the things that outside of the NWA, I got into that. You know, I saw how many people they had on there. The Midnights, the Fantastics. You know, Coco Ware was in there before he was a Birdman. Jake Roberts, when he wore those red bell bottoms. You know,
Pete Watley.
Yes.
You know, names people have just like time has forgot that were just awesome talents.
Yeah.
Well, I actually was just on the horrible Peacock network the other day.
The navigation on that is terrible. It really is. It's the older network was so much better, but I get it. They did it for however millions of dollars or whatever.
Hey, I would have took the payday too, but man, it's not even just the wrestling fans that are getting it. Like people trying to watch Olympic coverage are like, Peacock's horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah,
and that gives me a sense of relief. I'm like, okay, they're not just giving wrestling the short end of the stick here. It's network.
Right.
But like I'm watching the old NWA like Saturday night like World Championship Wrestling stuff, and I'm just like, was there ever? And his career was cut so short, so sadly. But like, was there ever a better babyface really than Magnum TA? Like when you think about it,
that dude was like the girls went crazy while he was out there.
And it was like
and
the
it
first
was like.
guy. Well, like after Flair, that was like the girls went crazy, but like every dude also wanted to be him.
Yeah, because all the girls were going crazy. But yeah, no, but seriously, that dude was being set up to be the next guy, and then this accident happened, and that's just a shame. Like he came back, but he was on an on-air talent for a while as far as like an interviewer and commentator here and there, but. It was cool to see him, but it's such a tragic story
there's nothing that can hold a candle to the cage I quit match between him and Tully for the championship.
I love where he broke that part of the chair off and is digging it into Tully's head and there's so much blood in that cage and he's just screaming, yes.
What? He never said I quit.
Yeah, right. He never did. He just
I quit.
You're right.
I love when he came out on AEW with the belt still because it's like he never said I quit.
I'll be honest with you. The day that he came out with that belt, I marked out. Seriously, I was like, oh my god! Like it was still in nice shape, pretty looking, and I was like. Wow,
it's the only silver belt that is like iconic.
Yeah, as an '80s fan, growing up in the '80s, that there's moments that I'm not a huge AEW fan, but I watch it here and there, and it's just like there's certain moments that they'll grab me with like things like that. That Gary Michael Capetta coming out, David Crockett was on not so long ago, stuff like that. Like gets
JJ Dillon,
yeah, hell of a guy.
Tossing Tully the shoe,
Yeah.
My wife, I'll never forget. My wife was in the kitchen as I'm watching that episode of Dynamite, right, where JJ was on, and Tully made his return to wrestling, right, and he throws the shoe into the ring, and I leapt up from my couch, and I was like, "He's the fucking show!" And my wife's just like. Because she doesn't know, wrist lock.
She doesn't watch wrestling.
Yeah. So she goes, they threw a shoe at somebody? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, you don't get it. This was like the thing. That was the gimmick. That was the fucking gimmick. Like, I'm a little kid again. Like, this is wild.
That's funny. I get the weird looks anytime I do pop. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm sitting on the couch. It's like, what's wrong with you? It's just like, you don't get it. You just don't get it. You know what I mean? It's like AJ Styles appearing.
As a fan, because if I don't, I wouldn't watch. I gotta watch
Really?
as a fan. Like, I have to.
Oh, it's on my tablet or my phone most of the time. It's like very rarely. Like basically every Tuesdays at 6:05, I'm in front of the television downstairs to make sure I watch the current NWA product because I do like it a lot. I think it's the kind of the style. There's so much wrestling today that I know we're getting way off topic here. I'm sorry, but there's so much wrestling today that if you don't like something, there's always another brand that you're a fan could go find. Whether it's AEW, WWE, NXT. There's a lot of really great indies out there too. Like SWE out of Texas is a freaking great promotion.
Oh my God, yeah. And you think about it, like you hit the nail right on the head, right? Like if you don't like one thing, there's something for everybody, man. You literally so accessible. And I'm a junkie, right? Like I watch like I don't know how I have time in the day. Like I watch everything. Like even in the background when I'm running errands or doing housework, I've got something on, right? Where I can hear it, in my vicinity. But like you have everything from like dark elevation. You have obviously the staples: Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, NXT, Impact on Thursday nights. Impact has one of the most underrated rosters, I firmly believe, in the entire country. And Impact consistently puts on good wrestling television. And it's stuff that you can get invested in. And like I look at that and like I look at guys like Ace Austin and AC Romero and like Moose and Rich Swann when he was doing his thing, and someone like Jordan Grace, who I think is probably one of the top 5 female talents in the world right now. Deonna Pizarro, and they just put this so underappreciated, under the radar promotion on because everyone's like, oh, it's defunct TNA, no one cares. And it's like, who's watching this because it's fucking great.
I will give it that, I did stop watching for a number of years because of if you remember the 10-10-10 angle, October 10th, 2010, they were promoting this big thing coming out. Yep. Who walks out? It's Eric Bischoff. It's like, oh, what the fuck is this shit? Yeah. And then he just sat there. He sat there talking literally for 49 minutes. With not one match in the first hour. I just shut it off and didn't turn it back on until 2018. I never watched Impact until, and when I did, it was somebody kept bugging me saying, you got to check out Impact. It's gotten really good. Different owners, different all this and that. Yeah. I watched Slammiversary. I was like, damn, that was a really good show. Started watching their TV. I found myself in Queens that October going to Bound for Glory. And I got to tell you, that was literally one of the greatest shows I've ever been to live. And I was shocked. Like, I was like, damn, these guys put on a phenomenal show, top to bottom. And it was just a lot of fun. I got to, I don't know, man. It was just really cool. I was sitting outside waiting to get in line. Here comes Don Callis out of the production truck, like right there. I'm like, this is so awesome, showing the mark on me there. But yeah, Impact is. I'm a huge Don Callis fan. I love that guy. I think him teaming up with Omega, Don Callis is doing some of his best work right now at this day and age. With teaming up as I'm saying it, they call me crazy. I don't know, but I love it. I think it's hilarious.
Man, I'm right there with you. Trust me, they are putting on some riveting television segments, man. You can't turn away. You're just like, what are they gonna do next? And I feel like we haven't had that in such a long time. That like, what are you gonna do next on mainstream pro wrestling? It's like I have to watch it because I don't know where they're going with this, and I need to see it.
Well, the thing is, like, the thing that fans lost interest in is that it was just the same thing every week. You have to keep things interesting, shocking people, or do something out of the ordinary, or do something to people that don't expect. Mm-hmm. People might hate it, but it's going to say people like, I know I'm just like when Brock Lesnar won the Money in the Bank. I was like, everybody hated it, but I must be the only one. I said, no, that was great because you didn't know it was going to happen. And
no one knew it happened.
Yeah, exactly. I was there. Hartford. I'm sitting there. His music hit. I was like, holy shit, this is unexpected. Like, that's why it was good. So
It was insane. That weekend I was wrestling Len Oddity in a hardcore match up in Southington at a bar brawl. And I was more preoccupied after my match, which was like bloody and just mud show bullshit. And I was more worried. I looked at my phone. I said, Brock Lesnar won the Money in the Bank. What the fuck? What are you talking about?
it was out of nowhere.
What? And people are like, you just like beat the crap out of yourself and bled out of you for the past like 25 minutes. I'm like, yeah, but I'm fine. Brock
Yeah,
Lesnar,
whatever,
what?
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny because it's funny we're talking about being obsessed with wrestling. It's like I DJ as well. I used to DJ at a bar, and the thing is, I'd always have my phone watching the pay-per-views on because I DJs on Sunday nights. People are like, "You're watching SummerSlam?" Yeah. What's the problem?
Absolutely.
As long as you're giving me drinks and I'm playing your music, get out of here.
Don't worry about what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's just people think I think it's funny at like 46 years old that I still watch wrestling, but I don't care. You know what I mean? It's just
Hey, at the
it's
end
just
of
a
the
thing,
day,
you know.
absolutely. At the end of the day, we ain't got no off season. We ain't got no breaks. We got to be there every single week, and we got to rock it out.
I love baseball too, so that's my other sport. And I
Who's
did
your
wrestle
team?
amateur.
Your team?
Boston. I know you're a New York guy, so I know. But you're from New York. We're not going to argue because the majority of the people I know are not Boston fans. So
All right. So we're good. We're good.
so, but anyways, I did wrestle amateur. I wrestled in school, and
Okay.
I talked about it a bit. I talked about it a bit with Ryan Frost actually not so long ago, and I got to tell you, it was the toughest time of my life.
Hi.
I got to tell you, that was like one of my favorite interviews I've done in the last 2 years, and it was really cool. And I had never spoken to him before, but he was like he was so cool to talk to. And we talked a lot about our amateur whatever careers. I don't want to call it career, but whatever. And I got to tell you, I was also in the best shape of my life. So it takes a lot to be, to train and be in that kind of shape. It's insane. And
Absolutely.
I would do it again. I would definitely do it again, though.
Get on that mat, right? I mean, you come up and then mix it up with us. I'm sure you could stretch a couple of guys still.
Let's get back into talking about Lucas Chase.
All right.
I want to know about the Cure because you're very old school and you're using this old school style gimmick.
Absolutely.
You're here to cure professional wrestling, and I got to tell you that definitely wasn't the first time I saw you. When I was at was it an Alley Fights or it was at Paradise Alley, and I remember you coming out, and I said, "This is the greatest gimmick," literally, because I'm like, I'm old school. I grew up in the '80s, and everything you did was very reminiscent from your look to the way you were in the ring, to the way you worked the fans, and the way that you had the fans. You had heat with the fans. I said, "This kid is awesome." Excuse me. But I said, "This is awesome." I said, "This guy's got it." And he's doing something absolutely right that a lot of these guys, no offense to anybody from Paradise Alley, I love Paradise Alley, but you were doing something different than a lot of these guys were. There was no high spots, but you were getting a reaction the natural way. And you did it right. And what made you come up with this cure gimmick and curing professional wrestling and all that?
So the precipice of the cure stems from my alcohol addiction, right? And when I decided to give this a go again, and I said I'm gonna give it everything I have, 1,000%. And my girlfriend at the time, my wife, she was like, if you're gonna do it, you need to put 110% into it because you need to fully invest yourself physically and mentally the way that you invest yourself in your love for it. Because I love professional wrestling more than anything on this planet, not my immediate family. My son, my
Got
wife,
you. Yep, absolutely.
Professional wrestling to me is the greatest sport, theater, entertainment, anything under the sun, all wrapped up into one thing, and it takes a lot to put together something that works. And the cure stemmed from the fact that when I developed it, I said I was going to give 110%, and it actually has helped in my sobriety. Right? In addiction, you replace one addiction with another addiction. I've always been a pro wrestling addict. That's never going to change. And I just took that addiction and applied it to my every single day life, because now my decisions are dictated on whether or not I'm going to hinder my career, I'm going to hinder my personal growth, or anything of that nature. So I was like, what is the alcoholism of professional wrestling, right? Like, why isn't it still in the mainstream? Why isn't it so accepted as it was in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, when it was so popular and cross promoted, right? Because now we're kind of back in the age, where, lack of a better term, where like the 80s and the territories were, where it's kind of like a subculture again. It's not in the forefront of media.
Right.
It's kind of like, like you
Yes.
just stated, people come up to you at the DJ booth and they're like, why are you watching SummerSlam? You're 40. In 99, people have been like, dude, SummerSlam needs to be on at the bar now. Taker's wrestling Austin in the Garden. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, we
Right.
need to watch this. So I liken it to, I said, what is the disease of professional wrestling? And I said, this gimmick is not going to work unless I'm a heel first. I have to be a heel, because what's killing professional wrestling is the independent wrestlers that are, and I listen to a lot of Cornette, I listen to a lot of like Bruce Pritchard, and I'm like, the non-psychology indie flip-flop darlings are what's killing pro wrestling, because the fans are making that what pro wrestling is now, and that is garbage. And I don't want to do any of that, because it doesn't mean anything. So that was like the precipice, right? That was like the core. That's where everything was coming from. And I said, okay, so what's the next step? What's the next level? And I said, Negan from The Walking Dead is the most charming motherfucker, excuse my language, that you could have, that is a villain, because you know that he's going to charm your pants off, but at the end of the day, you want to see him get murdered. You want to see Rick get his revenge. You want to see, all those guys you want to see Negan get his comeuppance. And I'm a firm believer that a babyface is only as good as his heel. And I'm a firm believer that people do not pay to see, and this is a very old term. I don't want to get any heat with anybody, but this is an old wrestling term. People don't pay money to see the babyface win. They pay money to see the heel get their ass kicked. And that is something that, in my mind, when I go out there, and this isn't taking away anyone's work, this isn't detrimental to anybody's work, that is a heel in this territory, that is a heel in the independent scene, that's a heel on TV. I don't do anything that is perceived to be cool in the ring, because people want to cheer who they want to cheer, but I don't care if the fans think I'm a cool heel. I'm not afraid to go out there and get booed. I don't want to walk to my car after the show and have people say, hey man, you were great. I want to walk to my car after the show, after the building and the parking lot is empty, because fans want to kick my ass. I want that. And you saw that night that we spoke in the parking lot. You saw that guy wanted to kick my ass.
That was actually a question that I was going to ask you, if you remember that. The thing that I admired, the most, that you kept in character, you kept kayfabe the entire time, and there was a gentleman that said you're taking it too far. I'm like, this dude obviously doesn't get it. You know what I mean? But I don't think he might have not been all there as well either, but besides the point. But I sat there, I was like, there's something really wrong. Like, it didn't seem like anybody else was around, but I sat there watching this whole thing, and I'm like, I really hope this guy doesn't go after him, and then I got to break this up. And then, I'm like, but it worked, and I thought it was awesome. And that's when I came up to you and I said, I respect everything you're doing. I said that to you that night. I said,
remember that.
And I said, keep doing what you're doing. I said, you don't see that in professional wrestling today. Everybody, social media. Look at everybody from all the bigger leagues, right? Bigger promotions. They may be fighting each other on TV, but they're sitting there chatting with each other on Twitter.
Yeah.
Responding like they're best buddies. I'm just like, it's not working. That's not keeping, you know what I mean? But you sat there and you kept everything in that one box, kept kayfabe the whole time, and I thought that was freaking awesome that whole time. And
I do this thing where, you know, if a fan catches me after a match, if the show's still going on, especially, but you know, I'm a curtain peeker, right? I like to watch the show even when I'm working, you know. And if a fan catches me or catches my eye, even if I'm not working at that moment, or I'm not in the ring, or I'm not doing anything, I'll flip them off without anyone seeing. I don't care if you're 5 years old. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you are pregnant or what. I'm going to flip you off. Don't look at me. I'm Lucas Chase. I'm the cure. I'm better than you. Don't worry about it. Why are you looking at me? Watch the match, you idiot. You know what I mean? Like, and people genuinely don't expect us to keep those characters when we're not in a ring. It's gotten to the point where they're like, oh, they're out of the ring. Whatever.
it's something that's lost. It's something that's lost in the last 25 years. And it's just, you know, now you can go up to anybody, a baby face or a heel. They're not going to be like, get the hell out of here. They're like, oh, yeah, I'll sign your whatever the fuck. You know, it's like, keep the character. And that's, and Cornette talks about that a lot in
Absolutely.
On his podcast. You know, I'm a huge corny mark as well. Like, that's, you know, a lot of stuff, 99% of professional wrestling today, they don't agree with him. But I'm going to tell you something. They're all listening to him. So
and I'm going to tell you something too. I get that the product is different, right? I get about evolution. I get about that, right? But what is working for me in my mental state as a performer and as a heel? Because I don't want to, like I said, I'm not a badass heel. I'm not a chicken shit heel. I am the God complex heel, where I think I'm so superior to everyone out there that it doesn't matter if I'm doing a step over toe hold or a sharpshooter or locking up with someone. When that bell rings, boom, the gear shifts. And it goes from the arrogance of me walking out and the curtain and the whole presentation to when that bell rings, the arm goes behind the back. I start to walk with more of a confident strut or swagger or stride. I always like to say, like, I don't strut, I stride, right? So, like, I do that. And, like, my mannerisms, if you've never seen me before, as soon as that bell rings and I start moving around, you're like, I don't fucking like that guy. Just by the way he's behaving, like, I don't, like, want to cheer for that guy. And my thing is, like, I never, and like certain things, like, you know, you hit a certain place in a match and people are so invested in the match that they're popping for things or whatever. That's one thing. But I never want to do anything in the little nuanced moments of the matches or in the beginning moments of a match. I never want people to cheer for anything that I do or applaud me. Ever.
I'm sorry. I actually cheered because I told you why. I already told you why. Because
I know.
Keeping it.
I
you know what I mean? That's just.
But you know, it's that thing, and I think a lot of guys and girls are scared to be that invested in being booed, because I think it's like a complex in our minds. Like, we're performers, we want to be perfectionists, and I don't think they can differentiate between what's heat and if they're doing a good job.
Right.
You know, and it's like, I don't give it. I know my abilities, and I'm not cocky. I'm a perfectionist just like everybody else. I sit and I watch my matches back and I'm like, fuck, I could have done that better. My movement here, footwork, whatever. But like, when I'm working, I go in there, I do what I do, I get the fuck out, and I don't ask the questions for the approval. Like, I don't want an attaboy. I don't want that. Like, I want to do my job to the best of my ability, to the point where it's like, I got booed out of the building because they fucking hate me. And that is me doing my job. Because at the end of the day, now we can ramp it up, right? Now you got these baby faces and you got these guys that are coming in, and, you know, who's the first one on a totem pole? Really? But the big bad heel that's walking and strutting around and striding. And it's like, well, all right, well, let's put him with Lucas, because we're going to see what if they keep up in that sense, because character work is 90% of what we do. You know, and
yeah, absolutely. So I know I touched upon it before we got off again, but tell me about training with Dustin and being in Texas. And I know you guys took a nice picture of I don't want to call it a class, but the group,
The
the
camp,
guys that were
yeah,
training with
the camp.
the camp. Thank you. And you won the title, the Rhodes Academy title.
I sure did.
And I know they did a bunch of promo classes, not promo classes, but promo. Is it a promo tournament? Is that how you want to say it on YouTube?
We did a lot of promo work. We did a lot of character development work. The Cure definitely, Lucas Chase definitely evolved down at the RWA. I have such admiration, and going into it, I had such respect for Dustin as a performer and as a character in Goldust and as the Natural, and now what he's doing now with the final tour or whatever you want to call it, the last ride, AEW and stuff like that. But now I have a respect for him as a mentor to a degree in which still kind of weirds me out, because it's like I grew up watching this guy and I just spent 12 weeks one-on-one with him, and he had enough confidence in me to say, like, you're my guy. Like, we hear stories about like people in the WWE, and they say, if you don't want to be WWE champion, if you don't want to do this, you don't want to be the guy, if you don't want Vince McMahon to give you the ball for the company and run with it, then you shouldn't be in this business, right? The validation as a performer to hear Dustin come up to me and say, like, we're doing this showcase, we're going to crown the first ever Rhodes Wrestling Academy champion, and you're the guy. That to me is like, I just not only represented myself and validated my work, but I just represented an entire territory of outstanding talents. Left my wife, my son, my family, my bubble, my normalcy, my comfort zone, moved all the way across the country, slept on a fucking air mattress for 12 straight weeks after training 7 hours a day, beat to shit, ate nothing but literally tuna, chicken breast, and fucking potatoes for 12 weeks. Soared, never complained once, never asked for any breaks once, in the gym twice a day. Like, that's validation. Like, I represented us. I went out there and represented all of us that are trying to make it from this territory, and I helped put an extra bit of spotlight on where we come from. And that to me makes everything worthwhile. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. I will be forever indebted to Dustin Rhodes and his wife and that entire staff down there. And the guys that I worked in the main event, Chad Lennox and Zachariah, are two amazing talents, and watch out for what they do next. And to get the opportunity to work and see AEW on that scale, and to work and be and perform in front of that amount of people, is something that I will never, ever, ever forget or ever take for granted. It was something that was, to me, it is obviously the high point of my career, and the beautiful part is I'm just getting started.
Would you work one dark match, or was it dark elevation? Which was
match, and we did. And I carried the coffin out on Dynamite for the coffin.
I did see that. I mean, you're on national television, millions of people watching you.
Yeah,
that's gotta feel amazing. You know what I mean?
It felt pretty goddamn good, especially, and we all rib each other in the business, right? But like my whole thing now, it's like yeah, I did my dark elevation match because they put, they usually you go on dark first and then you do the dark elevation. They just put me straight on dark elevation, and I was like, well, yeah, they put the stars on Mondays, and I skipped dark, and then I was like, oh, and do you think it was a coincidence that Lucas Chase was on Dynamite and we beat the NBA Finals in all of cable television that week? No. Not a coincidence.
People tuned in.
People tuned in, baby. I moved that needle. You know what I mean? Highest rated segment of the night started with this guy. But in all seriousness, it it is pretty outstanding to have had that opportunity. And it wasn't an opportunity like we didn't go down there with any type of inclination that was a possibility. We didn't go down there with inclination that was going to be anything. We went down there, especially me. I went down there, kept my mouth shut, my eyes and ears open, and I wanted to learn. I wanted to sit under the learning tree of a man that's been doing this within 5 decades for 32 years.
Wow.
And to see and to be in the ring with him and to learn with him and to have him teach one-on-one with me and help know my character and to get and want to dive deep into the character and want me to explain who Lucas Chase was and what Lucas Chase does and why does Lucas Chase do it and everything happens for a reason and what's the psychology behind it. It made me 20 million times the performer that I have ever been. And an athlete, and a wrestler, you know what I mean?
Right.
The psychology behind everything, and there was no better opportunity. And I thank God every single day that I had the blessing to go down there. I thank God every single day for Dustin Rhodes. I love that man. He is it's still really weird for me to see his name come up on my phone. A connection with him, where I'm just like, yeah, it's just Justin, it's weird, but it's weird in a great way because it's like I said, it's that validation, and I'll be back down there in a few months, because I got to go defend my strap, so.
That's awesome. I was about to ask you if there was any plans to return there or any other AEW shots on there or in the works or nothing.
I can't really talk about anything AEW related. I will be down in the Austin area trying to put a loop together with the indies down there. I will be visiting my home now, the RWA, when I'm down there. And we'll see what happens with the third camp that's starting in a couple weeks on August 27th. They begin their journey with Dustin, and the Cure's gonna be back. I'll be watching that camp very closely to see what's going on. I know there's some blue chippers that I've seen and followed on social media already, so we're gonna see if anybody's gonna handle their dose of the Cure. It's gonna be a fun time.
A couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. But you formed it looks like now in Paradise Alley, New Haven, Connecticut, East Haven. Whichever. Looks like you're forming a crew, a faction. Your first recruit was Big Jim Anderson, and next was Zachariah Gibbs.
Zachariah. It's just Zachariah.
Sorry. Zachariah. I'm sorry. I didn't.
We purged him of his.
How did this come about? Because I think this is one of the more interesting things going on in Paradise Alley right now. It's definitely one of those things that makes me say, hey, I'm not getting up to use the bathroom during this segment, or,
Really happy that you're not getting up to use the bathroom during my segments. Right? I do appreciate that.
I'm saying, you know what I mean? There's two really good storylines going on in Paradise Alley right now, and I'm really intrigued by them. And this is one of them. The whole thing where and a couple weeks, what is it? A couple months back, Jim come out. Big Jim came out and helped you. I'm trying to remember exactly.
So Jim was my first recruit into my legion, into my brotherhood. Yes. And Zachariah has been lost in the shuffle for so long, and we are not alone. We are many. We are legion. Oh. And there might be some things around the corner, maybe at the Rumble in Paradise, that you might not be expecting to happen with the Legion. But it is my island of misfit toys. We were all floating in this same space for so long and not getting the chances that other people were getting. And we asked ourselves, why not me? And I've never been the person to wait for opportunity to be granted. Lucas Chase creates his own opportunity. And Zachariah is now part of the Legion. Big Jim Anderson is now part of the Legion. The Cure Lucas Chase leads the Legion with a mindset of by any means necessary. They will not put us back in that box. And in order to defeat the snake, you have to chop off its head. And that head is Bloodsaw. Bloodsaw is 100% what is wrong with Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. Someone who comes in and thinks that they're going to get every opportunity. They want to step over people like myself, people like Big Jim, people like Zachariah, and they don't realize that for every single kid that you bury in the time that it takes to send a text message, we are plotting our vengeance. We are plotting what is going to take for that paradigm shift to occur within Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. And it starts with Bloodsaw. It trickles down to a guy like Sunset Garcia. It goes all the way to someone who I now consider a friend in Dustin Flash Waller, but I will not put friendship above my goals. I will not put friendship above or respect above holding gold in Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Because Lucas Chase has been a champion everywhere he's been except Paradise Alley. And it's just a matter of time. The Rumble in Paradise is coming. Lucas Chase is entered into the Rumble in Paradise live on Fight August 28th from the JCC in Greater New Haven. And I can tell you right now, Rick, we got some surprises in store that no one is going to see coming. And the Legion will leave hands held high because Lucas Chase's time is now.
I am very excited for the Rumble in Paradise. That'll be available on Fight TV, a low price of $9.99. Please go purchase it.
Yes.
You cannot get a better deal than that for a show that's just going to rock. It's going to be awesome. It'll be better than any WWE show you've watched this year. I promise you. Anybody.
Especially if you watch Raw.
I promise. Yes. It's funny that you said that. I make the joke every time I watch it, I usually, the longest I get into it is about 30 minutes before I'm just like, what the fuck? And the lowest is about 3 or 4 minutes before I'm just like, forget it. Like, I do attempt it though every week.
So, I give it a shot too. I'm not successful though. I catch the Instagram highlights,
Yeah, I watch. I end up fast forwarding through it probably the next morning through the bad stuff. But anyways, Lucas Chase, it's been awesome having you here. I wish you the best of luck in your future. And if there's anything you'd like to plug, right now is the time to plug social media, anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Lucas Chase is the handle on both those websites. We have a lot coming down the pike. We have alley fights every other Friday at PAPW in East Haven, Connecticut. You can check out PAPW at ParadiseProWrestling.com for more information. And we also have Blood, Sweat, Tears Wrestling, August 21st, Derailed in Bridgeport. If you get there early, not you, Rick, because it's your wedding anniversary. Happy wedding anniversary to you and yours. However, if you get there early, for all ticket holders, you can come for a pre-show meet and greet with myself and Dustin Flash Waller 1 hour before the show. So get those tickets. You can go to BST Wrestling on Facebook and BST Wrestling on Instagram for more information and a ticket link. And also we have Tough and Talented Wrestling, Torrington. I'm making my return. That's actually where the Cure debuted, man. Torrington, Connecticut. That was my first Cure show ever. And I will be taking on Dan the Man August 28th. And then I will be moseying on down the road later that evening to win the Rumble in Paradise for PAPW in New Haven on a Fight TV, baby.
All right, again, thank you very much. And make sure, everybody, you go check all that out because it's going to be a ton of great stuff. I promise.
Absolutely. And Rick, if I might, thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure, sir. I've been waiting to do this with you for a while, so I'm glad we finally got the opportunity. And not to sound like a shameless plug machine, but if you got some time, go on YouTube, Rhodes Wrestling Academy, second showcase. Check it out. A lot of great up-and-coming talent going through the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. And the main event, myself, Zachariah Chad Lennox, first ever RWA champion triple threat match. It is 20 minutes of a barn burner. And You're definitely going to want to check it out. It's not Nightmare Factory crap. It's Rhodes Wrestling Academy. It's where it's supposed to be.
I'll put the link in the description of this episode, so please click that link and watch this match. It was really good. Promise. All right.
Thanks, sir.